All right, you guys, we're live in the studio with Logan today. We're going to be talking about some pretty tough subjects, especially for men, because I feel like men in general, it's not socially acceptable to talk about our emotions and our feelings. And that's what we're actually going to talk about today. I feel like, as far as men, the only one thing that's really acceptable to talk about, or the only emotion really to feel, is anger. If you feel anger, you're a man. Like, I hear it all the time. Women will tell men, or moms will tell their sons, man up. But that's a question that I always have, because it seems like women always say that. Men don't say it as much. Back in the day, it seemed like men said it more, but I feel like women say it a lot, like man up. They want us to be tough. They want us to be strong, which I get. But the thing is, it's made it socially unacceptable for a man to show any emotion except anger. So how do we express ourselves as men? How do we express ourselves as people when the only emotion that's all right for us to feel is anger? There has to be some other thing that we could feel. There has to be some other way to express the emotions that we feel, because the truth of the matter is, men, women, children, adults, old people, it doesn't matter. We all have emotions. We all have feelings. But it's how we respond and react to those feelings, which I think makes a big difference in everybody's lives and the lives of the people around us. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Logan, when I say we're going to talk about our emotions, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I really don't want to. Like, I just keep everything aside, just blow over every other day. It's like not going well. But I mean, it's going to help me, and I like to let people know how you should feel, and like how to better understand what you're feeling.
Yeah, and how to express that. So let's talk about this real quick. You got in trouble at a group yesterday. Let's just be real, all right? Because if we're fake on this show, we're not really going to help people, but the truth of the matter is we're not going to help ourselves. So you got in trouble yesterday and you got kicked out of a group that you're going to, and they said express your emotions or express how you're feeling or something, and you told them something and then they kicked you out. So let's just go into that real quick. What was the thing? So they said express yourself or talk about something. What did you tell them?
I pretty much told them that if they didn't stop triggering me, like, triggers are a thing, and like, they're all talking about how their triggers are fake and everyone else is just fake around them. And I was just like, talking about promethazine, like, you can't do that where I was. You can't talk about drugs. You can't talk about anything. You can't talk about getting high. You can't talk about anything. So, I mean, basically glorifying the drug fact kind of triggered me, because I had a friend that overdosed. And, bringing back all those memories and knowing that I could have done something. I could have, like, told him no, but the reason he didn't call was because he died. And so that was all triggering me. And I said, you're going to keep triggering me where I black out, and then I'm going to have to, then I'm not having to, but then I'll beat up people, because it's the only way I can show and get everything out. And they took that as a threat. So, I mean, it's kind of tough for me.
Yeah, and you were telling me that you kind of felt that they were telling you to open up and you started to talk about it. But what you talked about, you felt like they kicked you out for, which you didn't think that was fair. So I just want to address this a little bit. Pretty much what happened is we're talking about a subject. He said that's kind of triggering me. When I get triggered, I potentially or eventually black out and I start beating up people. And they took it as, oh, well, it's not safe for us and you better leave. And Logan felt, in a sense, that they kicked him out. They wanted him to express himself, but then he started to talk about it, and they didn't really like what they said, and they kicked him out. So I just want to kind of go over this a little bit. First of all, saying that it's good to talk about some things, but it's also when and how you talk about certain things, how things could be taken. Which I think they were feeling that you were threatening them more than trying to talk or feel about it, but it's all perspective, which I think talking about it is a thing, but, when they're talking about expressing yourself and your emotion, and you tell them that you're about to get triggered and beat them up, was probably taken the wrong way, and I could see that. So I'm not gonna like say they were wrong and you were right, or you were wrong and they were right, because sometimes it doesn't even like it isn't even between like wrong or right or winning or losing, because sometimes it's just like, all right, things were taken, things were said, and now we're here where we're at now. So looking back, I want to walk through this a little bit. You had every right to say what you wanted to say. There's nothing wrong with that. And you said it. So do you feel like they over exaggerated, or they took it the wrong way, or they're just trying to like be drama queens or kings or whatever it was? Or what do you feel about their response?
I really think it's all above like what you said, because I mean, if a program like that is supposed to help you, and they say express everything that you got and get through the rough times, get through the rough patches, and get through everything that is basically carrying you down or having a lot of weight on you. And it's kind of tough when they say do that, but at the same time, at a certain point, they'll stop listening and they kick you out. That's kind of rough on me because I've already have a bad reputation of being neglected, being rejected, being the unwanted person, because that's how my mom did. That's how my birth parents did. And, you know, it's kind of tough because she left, and my dad didn't want me, didn't even pay attention to me, didn't even have time with me, just put me up for adoption, and that's it. So it was kind of tough. And so this is why I have struggled with that so much. And to get to a point where you've been carrying that for over 17 years, it's kind of rough.
So you kind of felt like another form of rejection in one way or another. You try to express it, and maybe it wasn't how they wanted to hear it. And now here you are going down the same cycle, and I feel like this happened to you with different situations and circumstances. But this is one thing I've realized. And I'm not putting the blame on one person or another, because I think that it's all perspective, right? Like, I know some people feel a certain thing inside, and if you expect it, you project it. That's what I always say. So if you're expecting rejection, you start projecting it until the point to where you receive it. Then all of a sudden you get what you were expecting in the first place. But then there's the other side of just people not really having the understanding, and it goes beyond maybe the comprehension or understanding that they do have. But in my own life, I've been in similar situations and circumstances to where I feel like either, I've experienced certain things or expecting certain things, and I kind of maybe start projecting them, maybe not. But what I realized a couple years ago, which has really helped me shift everything, is I can't control everybody around me. I can't control how they react. Can't control how they respond. Most of the time, it's a reaction, not a response. But I can't control that. So looking back on it, it's easy. This is the hard part. And this is why I love doing podcasts with you, because we get to talk about the hard things. So this is the hard part. I mean, the easy part is it's what they did. It's what they said. It's what they asked me. It's what they wanted me to do. I did it. They did this. They did that. But this is the hard part. The hard part is, what do you think you could have said different? Do you look back and say, hey, maybe I should have started out with something else and then eventually went to maybe it triggers me, said it a little bit differently, and then told them, in the past I have get frustrated or triggered, and then it causes me to almost black out or start beating up people, and I've done that, but I don't want to do it anymore, so I do want to change. But is there anything that you can look back on and maybe a different approach you could put on it? Because if we never look at it in a different perspective, or we never look at it and say, this is something I could have done different, then things never change. But if we could start looking back and saying, you know what? I still feel like they're wrong. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I could have done A, B, or C, X, Y, or Z. Maybe a little bit different. Came with a little bit different approach and maybe said it differently. Or maybe left out that part to where, you're triggering me, and I usually black out and start beating up people. So is there anything that you think maybe you could have changed? Which I'm not saying that it isn't their fault. And I'm not saying that they should, that they didn't handle it right. All I'm saying is there anything that you see that maybe you could have changed within your control? Because what other people do is out of our control. That's something that, like what you end up doing at the end of the day, Logan, I have no control over that. I could try to ask you, or I could try to tell you, or I could try to show you. I could even try to force you to do something. But at the end of the day, it's still in your control what you end up doing. So is there anything that you could think about right now that maybe you could have shifted or changed that would have maybe helped give you a different outcome?
Yeah. I mean, I do think about how I could have said it differently, but I mean, I lived to a life that I have a mindset that I live with no regrets, And I'm hoping I could change that, but at the same time, I have a piece that I can't let go of. And, I know I said what I said, I did what I did, and I mean, I'll take full responsibility of it, but it gets to a point where I've been through so much. So many therapists said you can express all you want, all you can, and we won't take you somewhere else. We won't do this. But at the end of it, they somehow always got rid of me. They always threw me out. They always couldn't handle to what I said, because that's just me. That's just how I speak. I speak from the deepest, and I want to change that. I want to do it better. I mean, this is for like ever. I mean, what I do now is what's going to affect me in life later. And, people have been telling me, you got to do right. You got to do this right. Or, it's going to mess you up, Like, you can't just go out and be a pothead, It's going to mess you up later in life. It's going to mess with your brain. And I feel like what I've been through so much, it's already messed up my life now. But I know at the end, when I'm older, it doesn't have to define me, because I went through that. I went through all the pain. I went through all the suffering God told me to go through just to get to another place. You keep the eyes on the prize, and I feel like, if I let down now, what is it going to do later? And it's rough. I mean, life is rough. I get it. I mean, if you're a Christian, if you believe in God, anyone out there, you got one person with you always. I mean, use him. You get where you need. He's always right there. He's just waiting for you to call. And I've been told that my whole life, my whole time of living. Like, he's just right there. Like, he's just waiting. He's not gonna force you. He ain't gonna tell you what you should do wrong, what you're not gonna do wrong, because he knew that from the very start. It's just a very pinpoint. Since you were born, he knew what you're gonna do your whole entire lifetime. Like, it's crazy that where I am right now is that he knew that I would be suffering a loss in programs and how to get better. And I'm just looking for another way in.
That's a good point. I like what you said. First of all, you don't have to let the
past
define you, which I love that, but it can refine you. It could help you become the person that you are, that you're going to be, the man that you're going to be.
Yep.
And, the things you do today are actually affect your future more than they affect your present right now. And what people are saying about you or what people are doing to you or whatever is one thing, but like you said, it wasn't like God said, you know what, dang, Logan, what's going on here? The beautiful thing is he knew exactly what you would go through, and he never said at one point, you know what, I'm just not going to make Logan. I mean, the world will be better without him. No, God never said that, because he knew that what you went through is going to make you stronger, and the strength that you get from that is going to allow you to go help other people. And I'm just going to give you a quick example of that. Like, my son struggled with mental health and addiction. He was an addict, and it was hell on earth. Let's just put it that way, like complete hell. Like, as a parent, and the things that he had us go through, and getting the calls at night, not knowing if he's dead or if he overdosed or somebody robbed him or killed him, and then just all the things, like from him stealing stuff out of our house to people coming over saying they owe him money, and we have little kids there, and I'm just like, are they going to shoot at us? Are they going to try to kill us? Are they going to retaliate? To just like everything, like the drama it just caused within our marriage and family and stress. And like, honestly, I got sick for a long time because of it. And I didn't know what to do because there was no real solution. But they say that hate is the number one motivator for change. Not love, but they say hate. Not, I want to go do something that's good for the world, but hate is the number one motivator for change. Not that you wake up in the morning and you say, you know what? I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to go to another counselor and I don't want them to kick me out anymore. It's actually to the point to where you hate the results that you keep getting to where you want to do something different is a time that it's a catalyst for that change. And that's what it comes down to is when are you going to hate the things that you're going through? Maybe a part of it is your personality. Like you were saying, like, hey, I'm just the type of person, I just, say how I feel and this is what it is. And there's also some abandonment, some other feelings and emotions that are deep down inside. And it's left me a little bit empty in life. So when other people tell me this and then they just leave me, like, it freaking sucks. And that is true. All of that is true. But at some point, you're going to be like, you know what? It sucks, but I'm stronger than that. It sucks, and it almost killed me a couple times, but I came through at the end. It sucks, but I'm not just going to sit here anymore and do nothing because for me, it sucked, and there is nobody to help families. They give them pills and psychiatrists and therapists and all these things, but it didn't help my son. None of it helped my son. Not one thing helped my son. And what I realize is there has to be something better out there. There has to be something not only for the person struggling, but for their family too. Because just so you know, your struggle isn't just your struggle. Every time you hurt, it hurts your mom because she loves you. And every time she sees you struggling and she sees somebody who did or said that and it hurts you, guess who it hurts even more? You just magnify that by 10 and that's how your mom feels. I'm not saying that you don't feel it because I know you feel it. But your mom or your parents, they just feel it 10 times more because you're their baby. She's loved you. She's held you. You know what the difference is? Like, you may have been abandoned by your real parents, but you know what the best thing about your mom is? She chose you. She wanted you. My parents, they didn't choose me. They had me and they were stuck with me. Your mom chose you and she kept you and she loves you. Like, that's the difference right there. And your mom loves you and she hurts when you hurt. When you cry, she cries. Guess what? It's the opposite way too. When you're happy, she's happy. You know what? When you're happy, she's actually happier. When you accomplish something, she feels great. She feels like, wow, we did this. Even though it's you who did it, but she feels like, wow, we did this because she loves you so much that she celebrates your wins and losses with you. And it's just almost magnified by like almost 10. I'm not saying whatever you feel like, oh, your mom's feeling it worse. But just as a parent, that's what it is. Like, if you're happy, we're happier because we love you. And
Yeah, it's a lot like that because just the other day when I got kind of kicked out, we got out. I walked out before she did. I took a little walk. I went down to a pizza place, sitting there. I said, you're going to eat here, or do you have any money? I said, I don't got any cash on me. I'm just going to chill in here right quick. I walk out. I go to a bookstore, go in, and then I start walking back, I'm still kind of heated, and everything. And my mom's still talking to the psychiatrist and everything and the therapist. So I get in the car, I drive, so I didn't have to look at the back of the building out of the rear view. And my mom's over there walking out just kind of down, because I was feeling down, And it's hard on me because every day I know that I want to make a change. I try hard. I basically fight for whatever feels right for me. I want the change. I want the better me. I want the better outcome. I don't want to stay the same person. But the thing is, do I pray? I don't. I sit there. I think I can do it myself. I do it in my way. I do it to whatever circumstances and whatever ability I can do in myself. And that is a problem there, because if God really wanted you to do it every way, he would have been you know what? No one needs me. I wouldn't have died on that cross to just watch people be suffering. But he died for every one of you. He loves you. He's right there with you. And he wants to see you succeed. More than your mom. Your mom's the second person that wants to see you succeed.
Yeah.
She might be a little bit of arguments and fights walking out of the house, but at the end, you come back, she's loving you the next moment. She wants to see you fight. She wants to see you succeed everything you've come to. She wants to see you accomplish things. And knowing now that we both cried after that moment of walking out because I didn't want to stay in there no more because they already kicked me out. And my mom was like, it hurts me to see you struggle. It hurts me to see you cry. It hurts me to see you suffering. And that's pretty much all I needed. Because knowing that she cares for me that much, she puts her time and effort for me. She puts all her time and the motivation in her place, which she doesn't have to. I have a sister at home she could be worried about more than me. I have family that she can be worried about more than me. But you know what? She takes time out of her day just to visit, just to play games, just to do pool, just to do ping pong, just to watch TV. You know, she could have been like her mom, go in the room, lock the door, and watch a Spurs game. But she's not. She's with the family. She tried to be a better person. Her dad taught her how to be a better person. And she went through the struggles that everyone is going through in their young age. She even lost her mom and dad, and she still went through that struggle. She lost her husband. She went through the struggle. But you know what? It's better out on the other side. You know, you can go through the stuff that you go through and feel better about yourself because you know you accomplished it with someone that you love, with someone that you didn't lose, someone that you have and know that they can feel good too. My mom, was crying. My mom was in pain. She's like, I don't want to see you hurt. I'm not giving up on you. And I was at the point where I'm giving up. I'm about to put my heart on the shelf. And, you know, I don't want to be a guy who's known as a quitter. I don't want to be a guy that's known to give up real easily. Because once people know that, that's what they're all going to do to you. Yeah. They're going to be like, I know he can give up easily. I know he can quit. And it's not really helping because you got a war between yourself, Satan, and God. God's on your side. Use him to your advantage. Call on him. Call people that love you the most. Yeah. And God's the number one person that's going to love you. That's good. You know, parents, they're going to always be by you, whether it's mom, dad, sister, or brother. They're going to want to see you succeed. When you succeed, like he said, you know, being succeed and happy, your mom's going to be happier. You hurt, your mom's going to hurt more. Yes. And it's true. It's just what you put your life up to. How you going to live it? You only get one life, one chance, one day. You know, it's day after day.
Yeah, one foot in front of another.
One foot in front of the other. And you need to learn, once you get life down, it's not as easy as it seems.
Yeah, it's really deep, man. That's good, too. And, you know, as much as your mom loves you, God loves you. And I feel like it's almost the same love because when a parent really loves their child, that love they actually get from God. And, you know, this is the thing I even tell people. You think that, like, everything that Michael has put me through, I love him less than the rest of the kids. And honestly,
that ain't true.
When you start thinking about it, you're like, well, she should love me less because I keep running into these problems and troubles. And, like, even the Bible, it says that, you know, God left the 99 to find the one. They went to find the one. That your mom left. She, like you said, she could have worried about your sister and this. And she does. But your sister, there's not as much to worry about. She worries about you. And she hurts with you. And she'll leave the 99 to go find you because she loves you. And that's the same thing that God will do is he'll leave the 99 because he loves you so much that he doesn't want you to hurt. And I even tell people, like, a lot of times, like, Not like I have favorites in kids. I love each kid because they're all individual and they're all different and unique at their age. But a lot of times I love Michael more. And the reason I say that is because I understand his hurt. I understand the pain that he's been through. I understand the things that he's gone through. And that makes me love him more and also appreciate the times that we do have. Like you said, your mom tries. She'll go play ping pong with you and whoop you every time in that. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's a different podcast here. But then she'll play pool with you. She goes out of her way to do stuff with you. She could lock herself in the room, but she doesn't. She intentionally wants to spend time with you. And the thing is, for parents, sometimes we don't know what to do. Like you think, oh, their parents, they know it all. The truth is, we don't. And she's learning. She's never raised a son before.
Yeah,
You're
and I'm
her
not a
son.
parent, and
Yeah.
I know kids, you want to grow up so fast, be a parent, be this, but guess what? Life gets harder as you grow up. You are better, not better off, but you're better to stay young and live life while you're young than be an adult sooner. Because if God really wanted you to be an adult right when you were born, man, you would have been missed. You would have missed all your challenges. You would have missed everything that He wanted to put you through to get better as a person.
Yeah.
And He right now, I feel like, I should be let down by God. I should be cussing Him out. But, I look up there and I'm like, God, I know you got a plan for me. Just lead me to it. And knowing that I was raised up in a church and not using God in my advantage, it hurts Him, It hurts Him just like it hurts your family.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's not, man, Logan, why did you not do that? I told you to do that. Why did you not put this right now? And, it's not going to be a straight path. It's going to be every which way. And I've learned that the hard way because, it's tough to be where I'm at and not know what to do next. I've wanted to quit and give up in life. Shoot, I even tried overdosing. And, people say I'm glad that didn't work. And I'm still wondering, man, kind of I wish it did. Because, I don't know what life is right now. I don't even know what the point is living. But, if God really wanted that to work, He would have already had that worked out. So I feel like, everything's for a purpose. God wants to use you. He wants to better off have you for a gospel to show the world. And
Tell the world and shows the testimony.
You it's hard for your parents to see what you've gone through. And I know I haven't told my mom about that. And it's going to hurt her even more when she hears. But at the same time, she can see what I'm going through. Like, you can see what your son's going through because you've been there. You've gotten through it. And the better yet, I'm not a parent. So I don't know how it is to parent people. I don't know how it is to have a son or a daughter, and I'm not telling my parents what to do. God is the one that's telling them what's the right thing. It's just hard to be a parent.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what to do as far as being a parent. Like we've been a kid before, but we've never been a parent before. You know what I'm saying? I've been a kid. I've been your age, so I could help you figure out kind of more of that. But I don't know as a parent, like what am I supposed to do in these circumstances, situations? There's not a book for that. And, I'm just going to let you know, I think a lot of young people feel lost because most of the times God's purpose in your life isn't going to come at 17 or 16 or 15.
No, it didn't.
And it's going to come later on in life after you survived all those things. You're going to look back. My other friend, Brandon, he went through a lot of similar stuff. He tried to kill himself multiple times and try to do all these horrible things to him, but somehow God just stopped it every single time and didn't let it happen, even though he tried time after time after time. But now he's older, he has a good job, he's really strong in his faith, and he's 28 or 27, 28. But now everything's making more sense. Even with me, it's life was chaotic. I grew up with an alcoholic mom, which I think your mom's a lot more solid and steady, and my mom was just we were poor, broke. She was an alcoholic. Anything kind of went. And I wish I had more stability like your mom gives you. But then a lot of people who have this stability want something more freedom like we had. So everybody always wants something that they don't have, but very few people appreciate what they do have. But for me, it's just anything went. It was all chaos. Then I have kids. I'm married. Then all of a sudden, one of my younger sons, was born with a heart defect, and then he had to have surgery at 6 weeks, and then that's just really stressful. You see your kid pushed out on the doctors with not breathing on his own on a breathing machine, and then have to do heart surgery. And then my other son got eczema that was super bad, and he was in the hospital like more than he was at school because it was so bad. And then on top of that, the cherry is just like Michael got addicted to drugs and then started to hit those really hard. And then it's just like all this chaos in the freaking world, and nothing made sense. Like even from when I was a kid, I was just like, dude, what is this world? Like, what is going on? It's never really going to get better. Like, I did graduate high school. It's hard. It took me an extra year. I went to some college. I did some other stuff. And just like, it's more trade school, but kind of like you want to do. But I was just like, always like, life is so chaotic. Then all of a sudden, after my divorce and life got more chaotic, all of a sudden, one day, it was just like a snap of the fingers. Like, oh, I get it. I see where my purpose is. I see the plans that God had for me. But it wasn't at 17 or 27 or 37 or when I turned 40. It's like at 41, 42, then all of a sudden just boom. I was like, oh, everything makes sense. All that was experience that I needed to be where I am today. All that was experience to have a heart to help people. All that was experience to understand like what Logan's actually going through. Because most of these therapists, most of these counselors, they've never had.
They're young. They're in their 20s. They're maybe early 30s. But the ones that get you the most in therapy are the ones at the age of 39 and early 40s. Because they know what you've been through.
Yeah.
They know how to help you. And I mean, I'm not dissing on any therapist. I'm not dissing on any 26-year-old that just got into therapy school, you know, and becoming a little therapist. But I mean, it's hard to know what kids are going through. You just got out of being a teen. You just got into your 20s. You know, you think life is just going to treat you nice, but you got to wake up. You know, you got to be in it. I mean, life is crucial. I mean, like you said, you had all these hits coming at you out of nowhere, and it's just pounding you one after the other. And, you know, when you're going through all that, it just hurts. I mean, it's not only hurting you, it's hurting the kid too. And
yeah.
I don't have kids, you know, I'm too young, but at the same time, having a heart that helps others and having a heart that wants to do better and, you know, knowing everything that's so little to me and not knowing the whole picture, it's the hardest thing to do because you're still living life young. You're still being your usual self. You're not even mature yet. You're just running around wild.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard because you don't know where to go next. And
that's
it's
so
rough.
true.
You don't know which way am I going to turn, and am I going to get the same answer as everywhere else? Am I going to still get the same question that's going to get me kicked out, or the same question that's going to hurt me or affect my mom or me? Because what you do in life, it reverts back on your parents, how your parents raise you. You know, if you want to be a successful person, you got to show that, because that means your parents did a good job raising you. If you don't, that shows how your parents are. And my mom told me that one day when I was young, and I was like, really? I don't really care. And you know, that same day I got in trouble, it reflects back on my mom. My mom started crying that day in tears of anger and disappointment because she told me what you do in life affects back on your parents. If you were a good parent now and you're raising kids and they like you, they're doing everything that you say, they're doing perfect in school, they're doing everything that they can to their achievements and their accomplishments, that means you were raised with good parents. Not saying bad parents or bad or anything, you know, but it reverts back on your parents. Because once they're gone, like me, my mom says this all the time. I really wish that what he can see what I've done for him for his whole life, being 17 years old, and I wish that I can live to hear him say thank you for what you did.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that same person that I was when I was 17, when I'm like 30. I want to be already recognizing what she did to me by the time I'm 20, so I can say thank you before she's gone. Because once your parents are gone, then it's on you or your grandma, and you were going to wish that you wanted her more. And, you know, screaming at your mom now, you're going to remember that, but you don't want to have the last fight and knowing that your mom doesn't wake up, because it's going to be more hard on you, and having her go with that one fight or that one word that you said and not being able to say sorry or change anything. Because I've had people that have had that happen. Their mom was on a trip back, got in a wreck. The last thing they said was, "I hate you," and never got to see him again.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, I do want to touch on that a little bit. You're saying like how you come out or how you grow up is definitely a reflection of how your parents raised you. But I think as individuals and people, we all have our own choices to make, our own decisions to make. So I've seen people with really good parents, and then their kids are just like, they just go off. Yeah, their kids are ungrateful or hate them or go get addicted to drugs or whatever. And I think kids and teenagers, I think teenage years are the hardest part. Like, you're going through high school, you don't really know the meaning. You start getting your individuality, which means you went from being a little kid, now you're like trying to make your own decisions and thinking on your own compared to your parents telling you. And that's really hard times. Plus, you know, a lot of people talk about hormones in women, but the truth of the matter is there's hormones in men. Your body's changing too, you know what I'm saying? You're going from like being a little boy, and now all of a sudden like you're growing hair in your pits and you're growing a mustache and other parts are starting to change, which your voice is getting deeper. And now you have all this, you know, testosterone and all these other things that are, you know, in your body, and you're like, all right, I don't know how to control all this. That's why we're talking about emotions and feelings and things too. But then it kind of levels out once you get older. Then you kind of get a hang of it. Think about riding a bike. First ride a bike, first couple times you're kind of a little shaky on it and you're waving around a little bit and maybe you're about to fall. But then after riding a bike for a year or 2 years, 3 years, now you're just cruising. You're doing jumps. You're doing all these other things. Same with your body, bro. Like, you're 13, 14, start going through kind of puberty. 17, 18, 19, now you're kind of finishing puberty and you're grown into the man that you're going to be. Now you're 20, 21, 22. You pretty much finished growing in all areas. You pretty much leveled out a little bit. You're out of school. You're kind of independent. Now you're doing whatever you want. And
you're pretty much
chill.
just maturing. Like,
exactly.
You know, a guy's brain doesn't fully evolve until they're 25.
Yeah.
So you're basically growing in the mind. And once your mind's set, then you choose what you want to do. Then you do what you want to do. But, you know, your maturity is always going to find you the opposite way out, because how you act is how it reflects just on you and your mom or your parents. And, you know, it's hard because you're freaking out in your head. You're having all this stress. You're having all this anxiety, maybe a little bit of depression, you know, what I struggle with. And you're still wondering, how am I going to fix this? Or how am I going to do this? Because you're all stressed out about one thing. You just got to let that go. Because, you know, the stress is also going to get the better end of you if you just focus on that. You want to do what's right or what you're going to accomplish. You want to keep your eye on the prize. And I found that really struggling for me because, but what I do is I look at the prize for like 2 seconds, then take my eyes off of it. And the funny thing, I'm going to relate to the Bible, but when I think it was Peter, right, that was walking on the water?
Yeah.
Peter, God said, come to me. He got out on the boat and started walking. He was doing it because he kept his eyes on Jesus. But once he took it off, he fell through the water.
Yeah.
You know, And Jesus will always be there to pull you out. But you just do too much, and he won't be there always to get you out of stuff. He's going to want you to rely a little bit on your standings and his. He's not going to just sit. You're not going to be able to sit back and let him do all the work. You got to help yourself too. And the hard thing about that is, if you want to get better, you got to be willing to change. Like he said, and like Jacob said earlier in the car, he's like, if people in life are doing one thing and you're hating the way you're doing something, you got to be willing to change. You got to be willing to do the work, to put in that extra mile to change. Because if you're going to stay like you are, you're not going to be able to do the change. So no pay, no gain. You know, it's just hard.
Yeah, we a lot of times get stuck in our ways and try to be comfortable, but a lot of times comfort isn't where we grow. It's out of that comfort zone. And, just like sometimes as parents, we don't know what to do. Maybe we do the wrong thing, but if God is all-knowing and knows what to do, and he allows you to go through that, what would be the purpose of God even allowing you to do that? God, this is just chaotic. God, this is just hard. And if God really has a plan through it, like, why did he allow you to do that? Because that's where maturity comes. Him patting you on the back and saying, Logan, it's going to be all right, buddy. Here we go. Isn't going to help you grow, because you're just going to be like, all right, we're good. We're just going to stay here then. God wants you to step out in that faith. God wants you to walk on that water. And the crazy thing is, like you were saying, like Peter was walking on the water. He said, Jesus, if it's you, tell me to come out on the water. And he said, come, right? But the thing that I heard before is it wasn't always necessarily walking on the water. It was walking on the word, because Jesus said, come. And once he said, come, he was able to walk on the water. Once he lost that focus on it, then he started to sink. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times that's what happens to us. We lose focus and we start sinking. Somebody hurts us, we start sinking. We say something wrong, we start sinking. We do something wrong, we start sinking. But the good news is God doesn't hold that on to us. Like, that's part of his maturity. That's how he allows us to grow. He's like, all right, bro, I'm right here. I'm still holding you. I never let go of you. You let go of me plenty of times, but I still have you by your shirt. I still have you by whatever. Like, you're thinking you're drowning, and I'm here like, dude, we're in a mud puddle. It's not even deep enough for you to drown, and you're thinking that you're sinking and that you won't be able to get up. And God's like, no, I'm here with you. I've been here with you. And sometimes people say, well, I just don't feel like God's with me and feel like the world's just chaos and this and that. And God's like, dude, I'm with you. I'm not going to do everything for you. And I always tell people, like, and it's not necessarily true, but it's a good saying that I like to say. It's like, it's hard for God to help us if we don't do our part. Like, if we just sit around and do nothing, it's hard for God to help us. Can God still help us? Absolutely. That's why I said it's a bad, kind of like, it's not necessarily true, but it's truth in a sense, because if I take a step, God could bless that step. If I never take a step, how's God supposed to bless that step? God could bless anything he wants to, so he can. But the truth of the matter is, we make it easier when we do our part. Like, if we just stay the same and we want everybody else to change all the time, we're never going to get the results that we want. But it's also God saying here, like, all right, Logan, you have a decision to make too. You made it sound like you were going to go beat these people up because they're triggering you, and you want to say it that way. But I know Logan too. Like, Logan doesn't always say the things the right way. When I was Logan's age, I never said the things the right way. Half the stuff I even say now sound real, like, rude, or sound really like
dumb,
dumb, or I just don't care. But that isn't the truth. Like, in my mind, I've already thought through it. I've already came to the end. So I'm just kind of saying the end to it. And they're like, whoa, like, why did you say it that way? I'm like, that's just how my brain works and my mind works. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't necessarily mean like I'm going to go beat you up. Like, you guys shouldn't be talking about this. It is triggering me some. When somebody's saying that they're being triggered a little bit, you should be a little cautious, because isn't that why we're all here in this group? But now you want to go say that, and yeah, that makes me black out and want to beat people up. And all I really say is that last part, and they're like, whoa, is he threatening me? Are you threatening me, Logan? It's just like, like, it's communication. And when I was young, I didn't know how to communicate it. When I was married, I'm going to admit it, I didn't know how to communicate the best. When Michael was going through his stuff and I was going through my stuff, I didn't know how to communicate. How are you supposed to communicate something that you don't know how to communicate it? How are you supposed to go through something like, you want to grow, you want to do better, and I know you do, Logan, but how are you supposed to do that? It's easy for me to say, just do this. How do you do that? How do you do something that nobody's ever showed you how to do? How do you grow? How do you get better? How do you get stronger with something that nobody's ever shown you how to do it? And that's the thing, like these psychiatrists, these other people, nothing wrong with them. I'm not talking bad, but they tell you some stuff, but that's not the problem. Like most of the time, we already know what they're telling us one way or another.
It's just harder.
You went to how many psychiatrists, therapists, doctors? Like
I've been to about 4. So, I mean, it's kind of hard knowing that what they're going to say, they're not going to actually be very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, they say you can do all this, do all that. But the weird thing is, like, if you see that the room is chaotic, the kids are saying everything they want to say, and they're not really holding up to their word, you already know that's going to be bad because they're going to listen to you what they want to hear, what they want to see, what they want to do. And when you do what they don't like, you're out. And another thing, I heard this in a song. It said, it's easy to talk the talk, but it ain't easy to walk the walk.
Amen.
I mean, you know, it's really hard to walk through your tough times because, you know, as men, we tend to shut down and we think therapy's a weakness. Crying is a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
If we do any of those or get help, we can't do it because we, you know, are mentally like we have to do it ourselves. We can't show a sign of weakness. We can't show anything that we're hurt or suffering because we're just made to be like all doing because we got to do it. You know, we take up for our families, our wife, our kids, and we take that all on our shoulders. But, you know, God's right here saying, hold up. I took that price.
Mm-hmm.
I died on that cross. I took all your sins. So instead of you having to carry your family's burdens, your family's weight, and your family's stress, give it up to God because, you know, God's always going to be right there. You know, you might not see him. You might not feel him. You might not even be able to look him in the eyes, but he's right there. He's just waiting for you to be like, God, I need help. God, I need this strength. I need you to help me to say the right thing, to help me do the right thing, you know?
That's
and
good.
it's hard to go to God because, you know, God feels everything. He was a human just like us. He walked on this earth, but knowing that you have to ask for help, it's just hard. And God even didn't like asking for help, but he still did because he knew he would get better. And eventually that day, he would die on a cross to take all our sins away and be risen from the grave 3 days later. Because if he didn't, where would we be?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And, you know, I mean, if he did, or, you know, he did, he's going to do it again. He's going to keep raising people up from the grave and keep remaking you, creating you, shaping you to the man he wants you to be.
That's good. That's really good. Like even saying that God didn't really want the help. Like he didn't really need it, right? He didn't need to go find 12 people to go follow him and say like this. It would have been easier for him to just to come, go heal people by himself, and go on that cross and take it for us.
But where would we be? You know, where would we stand? We could have just seen that happen. But if we weren't with him, we couldn't see, we couldn't taste, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't testify the glory of God and the way his power is. And, you know, I could be right here just saying all this and not mean it. But if I didn't mean it, why would I be here wasting my time? You know, God knew I would be here. God knew I needed the help. And God also knows when I express my feelings, I mean every bit to get me better.
Yeah, so I just want to wrap up with this. It's like, you may have a purpose, and that's what I want to call this part wrapping up. So I know sometimes, Logan, it's not just you, but it's me and a lot of other men out there. We feel like, what's the purpose of all this, God? Even women. I'm not going to exclude women. Everybody in life, right? We all feel like, what's the purpose of this, God? So I want to call this, like, is there a purpose? So this last part is, you know, people that God chose, people that God said, I want to use you throughout the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, everything. They went through a lot of struggles. First of all, I think I could think of Job, and he went and told the devil, like, Satan, like, well, have you ever, seen Job here or whatever? Like, he asked him that, and then Job got attacked. And all he had to do is curse God's name. Like, that seems pretty easy, right? Just curse God's name, and then all of a sudden, like, everything goes good, and like your wife will be healed and restored, your kids will come back, all your fortunes will be there. And like he didn't do it. It's like Job was a good person. He wasn't a person like who's doing a whole bunch of trouble. But if you look at everybody else, Noah spent hundreds of years building this boat. Then all of a sudden went on the boat, and first thing he did was go get drunk and defiled by his kids. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, Abraham, the father of many nations, right? God says at 81 or whatever, 80, you're going to have kids and bless your seed. And he's like, dude, I'm 80. I don't think you know what you're talking about. But then he did it. But the first thing they do is laugh at him. And then they don't trust God. And then he goes and sleeps with his servants and starts having other children. And it's like, these are the people God chose. Moses goes and kills an Egyptian, takes off for 40 years, comes back, still doubting God, tells God, I'm not good enough for you. But he's a murderer. There's an alcoholic, a murderer. There's like Peter.
And then there's Daniel.
There's Daniel. There's all these people who weren't perfect, who were actually broken. Like an alcoholic, a murderer, somebody who likes to cuss, somebody who has a bad temper. Like all these people that are just imperfect. And then we sit here and say, well, how can God have a plan for me? How can God have a purpose for me? And you know what? I almost feel like the more messed up we are, the bigger purpose God has for us. It's like, God has a purpose for you. And honestly, if he's letting you go through all this, you know what? One thing you have, Logan, that nobody else has is your life experience, your lived experience. Nobody's been through the things that you've been through.
And none of us are the same.
None of us are the same.
If God wanted us to be the same, we would have had all the life stories the same. We would have had all the same problems. But, what's life without the thrillers, the adventures of going through life? It's
even
hard.
The struggles, too.
Even the struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had family members like one of mine that have been through struggles and been in his life. He even hated this black person marrying his daughter. And that's one of my family members. But after all, God has told him, be gracious. Your daughter has a husband that loves and cares. And going back to the caring position, God wouldn't have a purpose or care that much about you to see you go through this. If he didn't, he would have just left you for nothing. He would have just gave up on you. But still, he's up there shaping and figuring out how you're going to end life.
God has a purpose and a plan for all of us, even if we can't see it.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And that's my mom's favorite verse, and that sticks with me every single time I remember.
That's good, but you know what part of that verse I like is it says God knows the plans I have for you. It doesn't say Logan knows the plans God has for me. That means we don't always know the plans God has for us, but God knows the plans that he has for you. And he has a plan for you. He has a purpose for you. And at 17 years old, I'm just going to let you know, it's hard to even see what that is. It's like, God, I have to wake up and go to school every day. I have to do this. I have to do that. Life sucks. But you don't even, it's like, it's hard to even see the purpose because you're still just, and I'm not trying to say that you're young because you are 17, but in the scheme of life and God's plan, like you are young. Like he has this whole life plan for you and you're 17. So it is hard to see like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what am I going to really see at 17? Some people, don't get me wrong, they're 17 and they know what they're going to do, where they're going to go to college. They're the best speakers in the world. They have the perfect car, the perfect life, the perfect mom and dad. And you're just like, oh, it's just they already know everything in life. But a lot of times those aren't the people God uses. God doesn't say, well, these perfect people I use. It's like these broken people, these people he healed. All these people are the ones that he came for. He didn't go for the intellectual ones that are just too smart for God and too good for God, and that he, like he does have a plan for everybody. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like at 17, it'd be hard to see the plan that God had for you in full picture and the full view of it, because he's still guiding you and forming you to that man that he wants you to be. So when you start thinking to yourself, is there a plan? Is there a purpose for me? Just realize, like, a lot of it comes through these hard times. That's what makes you more mature. That's what makes you complete. And I'm going to finish it with the Bible verse. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. And I might have read this before, but it's always a good one to go to, just because I really feel and I believe 100% that it's really
Reassuring. And having a future with God and knowing that you're not just done for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this Bible verse also helps, I know for me, understand
what purpose God has for you.
And why we go through some of the things. Because the biggest question is, like, why would we go through some of these things? And I think right here, if I could find it, that this really helps explain a lot of it. So it's going to be first book of James. Where did that go? I just had it. So it's going to be the first book of James. It's going to be James 1. And right, there's James. There's 1. Chapter 1. And it's going to say, consider it pure joy. Like, why would you consider everything you're going through pure joy? But listen to this. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously without finding fault. You ask me for something, Logan, I'm going to find some fault, bro. I'm going to be like, Logan should have done better at the therapist yesterday. Now he wants me to go help him after he got himself. I'll find fault. And I'm not saying like I'm faulting you for that, but God will give you wisdom without finding fault. He won't say like, Logan, you messed up. Because you know what? He already knew everything to begin with. And he still loves you and made you and created you exactly how you are. So till next time, you guys, remember, God does have a purpose for you. He does have a plan for you. And it is all right to show your emotions. It is all right to show your feelings, because those are part of who you are. There's no weakness in it. There's not just strength and anger. That's actually a weakness, if you ask me, because anybody could get angry. Anybody could blow up. Anybody could do that. But to have self-control, which is a fruit of the Spirit, right? That isn't anything that anybody could do. Self-control, to actually have that self-control and also express your emotions and feelings, it's healthy. That's actually a strength.